Okay, hi everybody. This is Larry Baxt, founder of opergermany.com. And today we have a singer, a wonderful singer who has made a career here and also made a career doing other things as well. So we're going to talk to her first about her career and what led to it. And then we're going to talk about making a career and a career so that you will always have money coming in, which is also a useful thing. So Jessica Rose Cambio, hi there, and tell us about yourself.
Okay, so it's very long. Hello. It's a very long story, actually. I don't know where I came from because I'm the only musician in my family. We have zero musicians in my family, no singers, no nothing. My grandmother was sort of singing in the church choir, but that's about it. Other than that, this love of music sort of started from a very young age. I asked my mother when I was 8 years old if I could play the violin, and she thought that was a very strange request because we have zero musicians in our family. But luckily, the music teacher in my elementary school said to my mother, if you have an 8-year-old asking to play the violin, you need to listen to her. You need to buy her a violin and let her follow this. And so thank God she said that, actually, because my parents then bought this, at the time, very expensive used violin. And I played for, I think, 6 years. You'd never know it now if I touched a violin, but I played for 6 years until I was about 14 when I thought it was no longer cool. So I gave it up. And that was one of my top regrets, I would say. But so I gave it up. I went, yes.
Did you learn to read music at that point?
I don't think so because I mean, yes and no, because they teach you, of course, the scale and the letters and the like where how it works. And I remember thinking, learning every good boy does fine and things like that.
Yes,
But
right.
now I think it's different acronym, different sentence. But I don't think I really learned how to read music at that age. I
Where
probably
did you
should have, but
where did you grow up?
I'm originally from Providence, Rhode Island.
Uh-huh.
But I was born into an Italian family, so I spent a lot of years also going back and forth from Italy. I have a family in both countries, and I lived a lot. This is why my story is so long. I lived in a lot of places. I lived 15 years in New York. I was 12 years in Italy. I've been 6 years now in Germany. So Rhode Island doesn't even seem like home to me anymore because I've spent more of my adult life outside than I did there. So that's where the confusion lies in my long, very long biography. So after I gave up the violin, I joined the chorus actually in school and the drama club. I don't really remember much about the drama club. I think I didn't really participate, but I was a very strong presence in the chorus all the way from being 14. Like I started very young because I was the only one who could hit all the notes, low and high. So my
Yes.
choir director often asked me, can you sing the tenor part? Can you sing the alto part? Can you sing the soprano part? And show them how it goes because I had a really good ear and I already played the violin. So I sort of knew how music worked. And I was the only one. So I had to demonstrate for even the basses, you know? I was just like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
I also used to I was the only kid in the school who could sing the first tenor part, so I
Yeah,
sang right, exactly.
exactly. Yeah. So then you sort of know that you have a gift. I didn't know. I had no idea. I thought everybody was like this. So I thought everybody could sing. I thought everybody had musical abilities. I just had zero clue that I was talented, which is maybe good because I wasn't cocky about it, you know? I went to church often with my grandmother because she sang in the choir. And so I also tried to be kind of part of their choir, even though I wasn't really. But I enjoyed going to their rehearsals and I would sing along with them. And then I heard one of the ladies sing operatically. She sang Ave Maria, the Schubert Ave Maria, for the first time. And I thought, I think I was 10. And I thought, oh my God, I want to be like that. I can be like that and I can sing like that. Weirdly, I knew that already at 10 years old, but I thought everyone could.
Exactly. No, I know the feeling. You know within yourself that you can do that. It's a long
Yeah.
way off, but you know.
Yeah, very strange. And I had no hesitation about it. I just knew when I heard this music that I could do that, weirdly. But my brother, absolutely not, for example. So this woman was a very big part of the inspiration and the like this little flame that sort of grew inside of me because I related to her and I was very immediately attracted to this kind of music and this kind of singing, and I loved the sound of her voice. I couldn't tell you today what she sounded like or if she was any good. I don't remember. I just
Right,
remember it
right.
being the most beautiful thing that I had ever heard. And then from there, I was in the choir in high school and middle school. And my high school choir director, it was the first time he taught us how to sight read and taught us music theory, actually. So that was really good because I got a head start. Because that's not usual in a public school where you have a music teacher teaching you theory and sight singing. This was a person who was the organist at the church in Providence, and he tried to be a singer, I think, too. He was a tenor as well, but decided he didn't want to do it professionally, so he chose music education instead. But it was a really integral part of my childhood, I think, because he's the first person who, for example, brought us to Italy. We did a choir tour in Italy when I was 15, and that's kind of a long story as well. But it was the first time that I had gone to Italy and the first time that I met relatives who lived in Italy. And there, being there, also, I felt at a very young age drawn to this country, drawn to my family there, drawn to the language. And I just knew that that had to be part of my life. It was just something that I didn't know was missing.
Where in Italy were your people, as they say, uh, your relatives?
They are in the south between Naples and Rome in a very, very small town called Ciorlano. That's where my all of my aunts and uncles were born, and my mom was actually the only one born in the US because they
Uh-huh.
went back and forth for hundreds of years.
Right.
But I have been there several times. I've spent holidays with them. I've been there for Easter. I've been there for Christmas. I've been there for weddings and funerals, and I've been there quite a bit. There's not a whole lot going on. It's a very, very small town, but it's close enough to Rome and it's close enough to Naples that we sort of can also meet whenever I'm in Italy. If I'm in Rome, they come and they visit, or if I met them once in Naples, I think last year or 2 years ago. So we get to see each other often, which is great.
Well, right. And so now, where when you went to college, did you study music? And tell us about your sort of higher education at this point.
Yes. Okay. So after this trip in Italy, actually, when I was 15, was very life-changing for me because I wanted to be an art teacher. I was an artist before I was a singer. And I wanted to go to RISD because I'm from Rhode Island and the Rhode Island School of Design is a very famous art school. So I had my heart set on going to RISD. I took art classes all through high school and I had a really bad relationship with my art teacher. So she sort of kind of ruined it for me, actually. She took the joy out of art making. And ironically, she was on this trip with us because she was one of the chaperones in Italy. And in the one of the concerts, my choir director gave me a solo. I forget, I think it was Ride the Chariot. I think I was singing high B flats. And I sang this solo in a church in Florence, and after the performance, an Englishman came up to me, shook my hand, and said, "Congratulations, young lady. Someday I'm going to see you on the stage of La Scala." And in that moment, I was like struck by lightning, and I said, "This is what I have to do. I have to be an opera singer." And it was like I never looked back. That was the moment that just changed my entire trajectory. I went up to my art teacher after this concert, and I said to her, when we get back, I'm dropping your classes because I don't want to do art anymore. I want to be an opera singer. And she just laughed. She was like, yeah, okay, haha, an opera singer, sure, whatever. And when I got back, surely enough, I quit art. I dropped her classes. I took as many music classes as I possibly could. And I made an agreement with the soprano soloist in our church to teach me voice lessons for free in exchange for babysitting her kids
Ah, yes.
because my parents were going through a divorce at the moment, and I knew that if I said to my parents I want to take voice lessons, they would have said, "Yeah, right, kid, we don't have money for voice lessons right now." So I arranged this organization with my voice teacher and her kids, and then I brought the idea to my mom and I said, I want to be an opera singer and I need to take voice lessons. And I already made an agreement with the church choir director and I'm going to babysit her kids in exchange for voice lessons. And you're going to be okay with it. And my mother
Right.
said, I guess I'm going to be okay with it. Okay.
Right. You went and took the bull by the horns and made a practical arrangement.
Yes, I think I've been an entrepreneur my entire life.
Right. Well, we will talk about that. By the way, I do have to say that we have something in common. I mean, this will come up later, but I did go and check you out a little bit, and I saw a lot of the Liederkranz
Oh,
Foundation
yeah.
conversations, and I was also a winner in, like, I hate to say it, like 1978. Um,
Nice.
Long, long ago, and in fact, I'm sitting here with the tape recorder that I bought with my prize money, uh,
Oh,
which I had fixed up, so I can now eventually re-record all my stuff digitally.
oh my
Uh,
God.
so we do have something in common, and you will talk about Renata Scotto
Of
because
course.
you worked with her a great deal. I worked with her also in Athens at the Athens Festival,
Ah.
singing Turandot, where that she directed.
Oh, she
Uh,
did. Oh, that's right. I remember she directed that. Wow.
yes, yes. Anyway, so tell us where did you end up going then to college and after that?
So this choir director taught me for a year and a half, and in this year and a half, she was wonderful, actually. I have to say, she was really great. She taught me all of my music and helped me prepare for college auditions. And that was the biggest gift she could have ever given me because I actually applied to I think 6 schools and I got into all of them. And I just already from 15, 16 years old knew that like this was what I was going to do and there was no stopping me, you know? So this wonderful voice teacher of mine prepared me. I learned arias, I learned songs, I learned everything I needed to learn. And I met some coach who I think he's no longer living. I don't remember his name. He was a coach at Juilliard. Charles, I don't remember his name. I'll have to look it up. And I would go like once a month or so to coach with this guy in New York because I met
Now
him.
you took the train.
Yeah, oh yeah, the train, and I went with my mom and also my grandmother because my grandmother was a huge advocate and was the one who really funded everything that I needed. So if I needed
Uh-huh.
gowns or voice lessons, my grandmother was the one who helped pay for them. And she became like my she was almost my mother by the end because we had such a very close relationship. She was on this trip with us in Italy, and that's where we got really, really close because she realized like that I was, I had this talent and that I had this affinity for Italy, and that I was the only one in my family who spoke the language actually because
Uh-huh.
I spent time learning it in school. My brother, for example, doesn't speak a word of Italian
Huh.
and my cousins as well. So the generation before me, so my mom and her siblings spoke Italian, and my grandmother spoke Italian, and they all spoke Italian with each other. But
Right.
all of them had kids who then they spoke English with because they grew up in
First
America.
generation children, right. You
Exactly.
know. Yeah.
So once I was working with this choir director, I prepared my college auditions. I actually also, ironically, got this assignment in my English class to interview somebody famous in Rhode Island. And I thought, this is my chance to meet Maria Spacagna because Maria Spacagna is also from Rhode Island.
Uh-huh.
And she's Italian American, and she had a very big career operatically. She was the first butterfly first American butterfly in La Scala, for example. She sang Louisa Miller at the Met with Pavarotti. So little 15-year-old nerd me, was like, I need to meet Maria Spacagna.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I went to a performance of her. She sang Bohème at the Providence Performing Arts Center, and I was just in awe. And I thought, oh my God, I love this little person. She's very short.
Yeah.
And I need to make her part of my life. So I met her and through a choir director who there's a big group, a professional chorus in Rhode Island called the Rhode Island Civic Chorale and Orchestra. And I
Hmm.
joined that when I was 16. And the conductor of that was very good friends with Maria, and I knew that. So I said, you have to let me meet her somehow because I just adore her and I have this assignment and I want to write it about her. And so he said, okay. He is also integral because he was at the time the department chair at Rhode Island College where I did my bachelor's. So that will be
Uh-huh.
important in a minute. But when I met Maria for the first time, I was so nervous, like fangirling Maria Spacagna.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And I told her I'm an opera singer too, and I want to go to school for it. And she was very much like, whoa, really? You're so young. And she wasn't teaching yet. But I asked her, would you ever maybe give me a voice lesson? And she was like, well, I'm not really teaching, but we could try and see, because I don't really, she was still performing at the time.
Right, right.
But she did this interview with me. She was very kind. And I thought I would never hear from her again, honestly. But she followed up and she said, do you want to have a voice lesson? And I was like, are you kidding? Absolutely. So I went to her house. I was terrified. I think it was my first voice lesson with her. I drove there and I parked in front of her house and I had to sit in the car for a few minutes because I was like, I am so nervous. I need to get myself together.
Uh,
And
I do have to say that when I first went to my first voice teacher, Hans Heinz in New
ah,
York, I called him up. First of all, just for kids out there and folks out there who are learning to sing, these people are human beings, and they will
yeah,
very often talk to you and meet you. So don't think of them as unreachable. And Heinz just said, "Okay, come on by and sing for me." And
yeah,
I was also terrifically nervous, and I couldn't get my coat off
yeah.
because my arms wouldn't work. He had to, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's amazing because I you don't think about that, but you're absolutely right. They're 100% human beings. And she showed me that because the second I walked to the doorbell, ring the doorbell, she was like in the middle of vacuuming her living room, you know? So she's like, "Oh, sorry, just come on in. I was just trying to vacuum before you got here." And I thought, how
Right,
human is that, you know? Maria
right,
Spacagna
exactly.
also vacuums, you know? So I went in and she said, "So what do you want to sing for me, young lady?" And I said, "Well, I think O mio babbino caro because I prepared it for college auditions and that's the one aria that I know besides art songs and things like that." And so I sang it for her and she was immediately like, "Wow, you're really talented. You're very young, but you have no idea what you're doing technically." And I was like, "Okay, humbled. Thank you." Um, so she said, if you're willing, I would love to teach you because I'm also just starting out as a teacher and it's good for me and it's good for you. So if you want, we can work. This was in the last year of high school. So I said to
Okay.
her, yeah, I would love that. So I continued working with the teacher who prepared me for the auditions because Maria was still singing. But then whenever
Did
Maria,
Maria live in Rhode Island?
yeah,
Where
at
did
the
she?
time, yes. But she was still singing, like she was doing Butterfly in Zurich when I first met her, and she was still very much in the height of her career. So she wasn't always home. So she said to me, I can't be your full-time teacher because I'm not always home. Stick with your teacher, who she knew. And she said, continue learning your music. And then whenever I'm here, I'll give you voice lessons. And so I said, okay, great. That's great. So I did that for the last year of high school. And then I auditioned at 6 schools, like I said. I got into everywhere, but I didn't get scholarships at most places. So I thought about it and I said, I really don't want to put myself in debt and get buried in student loan debt because it's 4 years. Four
Yeah.
years at Juilliard is like $320,000 or something, or maybe it was a little less at the time, but it's at least $300,000 for a bachelor's degree from
Hmm.
Juilliard, which, if you saw this Renee Fleming interview recently, is obscene. I mean, it's an obscene amount of money. So I didn't want to do that. And Marie and I had a very honest conversation about it. She spoke with this director of the Rhode Island Civic Chorale, who was the department head at Rhode Island College, and they made a plan. So they offered me a full scholarship and they hired Maria to teach only me. at Rhode Island College. And so I said, this is a no-brainer. So I didn't go, I don't think I got into Juilliard, but I got into, I think, I don't remember, but because I also applied for schools in my master's degree. But I said, okay, so my bachelor's degree is going to be free. I'm going to get to work with the teacher that I want. I get to stay home and live near my grandmother. This is a no-brainer.
Right.
The I wanted to actually double major in vocal performance and Italian already from this age, but they didn't offer a major in Italian. So what I did was, again, I'm a businesswoman, right? I took every Italian class that I could find in the state of Rhode Island and had all of the credits transferred to my
Uh-huh.
school
Very good. Right.
so that I graduated with enough credits to have a bachelor's degree in Italian, even though I didn't officially have a degree. And I had a meeting with the dean and I said to him, I want a degree in Italian. And they said, well, we don't offer that as a major, so we can't give it to you. But it was very useful later in life because then, as you know, I went back to school and I got a master's degree in Italian literature, but I didn't have to do any of the bachelor courses because I already had enough credits on my
Right.
transcript. So I was
Right.
like, yeah.
Very practical. That's it's a great great advantage to have a second career and a business.
Yeah.
Uh, Tito Gobbi long ago told me the story of a soprano that he had worked with, and he said she was wonderful, and then
Hmm.
all of a sudden she disappeared, and he
Oh,
wondered what happened to her. And one day he walked into a lavanderia, a laundry place, and there she was behind the counter because she had
yeah.
lost her voice and she needed a job.
Yeah, of course.
So
Yeah. That's
so learning Italian was a brilliant thing, and you're clearly a very practical, down to earth person.
I'm very there's a word that Monica uses in Friends. I think she says scrappy. I'm very scrappy.
Okay, right, right. So tell it. Let's get on to how you got to Germany. I mean, I know you, or you can give a compressed
Hmm.
story of who your voice teacher, who the really influential voice teachers were,
Yeah.
um, and but
And postgraduate work as well.
Yes.
It,
right,
yeah, Larry, if you got postgraduate and the young artist or whatever you did postgraduate stuff before the Germany, because the young artist, that kind of circuit, did you go past that? Did you? I think that's important before getting into.
Yeah, if I sort of go chronologically, it makes more sense because I didn't actually do the standard like young artist thing that most American students do. And the Italian thing was a big part of my career as well, but I also grew up speaking the language. So I grew up bilingual, which is fantastic. But we spoke dialect and English in the house, and then I learned Hoch Italienisch in school, actually. So
uh-huh,
so that was the Italian connection. But so I spent 4 years with Maria Spacagna in my undergrad, and she's really the one who formed me the most and really taught me what singing means, what breathing means, what resonance means, what operatic singing actually means. And not just because we like work technically together, but also because she really took me under her wing and invited me over and showed me old recordings of Leontyne Price singing Aida. We watched Tebaldi, we watched Tito Gobbi, we watched Scotto and Freni and Pavarotti and all of these singers of that generation so that I got a bank of knowledge installed into my brain from 15 years old. So I was super lucky in that respect because then I remember sitting there on her couch one day watching Leontyne Price sing Aida in this very famous recording. I think it's from 1960. It's in black and white. I don't remember where it's from, but she sang O Patria Mia. And I remember going, oh, that's what you mean. And I have like chills everywhere thinking the moment where I discovered what operatic sound should be, it was
hmm
like, again, a lightning bolt, you know? And I think because she was so caring with me and wanted to teach me everything, not just technique and like, of course, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 and how to count, how to sight read, all that other musical stuff, of course. But it was also this whole culture of what bel canto singing is, how it should sound, how you can achieve that, and what the standard should be. And so that standard for me has always been that since I'm 15 years old, which is fantastic because that then led me to people like Scotto Freni, Mariella De Via, which now I'll get to. So I graduated in 2004 with my bachelor's degree with zero student loan debt and the teacher of my choice. And then she helped me apply to master's programs. So I applied to, again, 6 schools. I got in everywhere. I actually got a full scholarship at CCM, but I turned it down because they didn't give me the teacher I wanted. Because Maria was very much like, you have to study with this person here, and this person here, and this person here, and that's it. And
That's
so,
that's very important.
yeah,
It really any schools are fine, but it's the teacher that counts. In my
absolutely.
book, in my book too. And having standards is really a valuable thing.
Yeah,
I've been in programs where you say the word Tebaldi and you get a blank stares back,
I know.
and this is very dangerous, children.
I
Listen
know.
to the old records and listen with, if you can listen with somebody like Spakania, that's of
Yeah,
course the most wonderful thing. But
yeah.
standards are important to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, because then she also taught me how to listen, you know? She would like pause the video and be like, "Did you hear that? No, you didn't hear it. Let's hear it again." So it was like I really understood what the sound was supposed to be from the very beginning. And I think I was shocked this summer. I taught in a program, as you know, and I asked a couple of the baritones if they knew about Renato Bruzon because they were asking me, where should I go? Where should I apply for? And I said, in Kijana, there's an academy and Renato Bruzon teaches there. And they said, who's that? And I thought, I almost fell out of my
Yeah,
chair.
yeah.
Who's
It's
that? I'm not that
well,
old.
no, it's a sad commentary. It's just the last person they heard on YouTube, and besides the just the question of what machine it's playing back on, there's in a way there's too much information out there, and people
Yeah.
don't have any way of distinguishing.
Right, right. And it's shocking because now, of course, when, Maria was growing up, there were no recordings really available. So, or maybe they were, but not as many as there are now. So the fact that you can find Renato Bruzon in 10 seconds on YouTube is a gift to this generation. But like you said, you need to go in the right direction. And I think that they're not being guided that way in general. Some people, yes, of course, but I think the general consensus is that, you're listening to the people who are singing now, who are famous, which is a very different situation than Tebaldi and Bruzon and Tito Gobbi and, singers of that
Right.
era.
Right. You used to have to go to record shops and look at the back of the records and sort of read it and decode it. And if
Yep.
you had somebody who knew what they were talking about, that was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And it used to be that you would want to listen to an opera because of the cast. And now they don't even put the cast in the like on the website. The cast isn't even there. It's about who's the lighting designer, who's the director, who's the conductor, who's the intendant, and the cast is not even there. It's infuriating because I'm often
Right.
looking for like, oh, I want to see Aida in Verona, who's singing, and I have to do research to find out who's singing because it's not readily available to me. It's crazy.
This is crazy. For people who want to learn how to sing, this is crazy. So be be notified, children. This is what you have to do it on your own in a certain sense.
Yeah.
Uh, so tell us about your master's experience, and then what happened after college or after
So
university.
So when we talked with Maria about where I should go to school, I applied to several places, and there were places that I even got scholarships for, and I turned them down because, like I said, I didn't have the teacher that I wanted. But I chose the University of Southern California because they gave me a half scholarship and the teacher that I wanted. So Maria Spacagna and Elizabeth Hines, and also Bill Schumann, were of the same generation, and they studied, all three of them studied with Rita Patanay in New York.
Oh, yes.
So you remember this name, yeah?
Oh, I remember this person.
This person, yeah,
I'm
exactly.
and I knew the conductor Patane too,
Ah, okay, yeah,
who was
yeah.
quite a he could sing anything
Oh,
and had a
wow.
good voice, and he could sing. He could just sing anything he wanted. He
Yeah,
knew it all,
crazy.
and she was
So
a great teacher.
yeah, she was a wonderful teacher. I actually had one lesson with her because I wanted to meet this woman who was my grand teacher, because she taught three
Right,
of my teachers. And so I said, I have to meet her. I went to have a lesson and she was wonderful. So Maria sent me to Elizabeth Hines because we had this Rita Patane school. So she said, I don't want you to change the school of singing. I want you to be with someone that I trust. And I paid, the other half because I only had a half scholarship, but in the first year. And then in the second year, I got a teaching assistantship. So I was actually already started teaching for the
right.
department in my last year of my master's degree, which is great because then that's where I began my teaching and I figured out how I teach and how I want to teach. And it was a wonderful opportunity for me because I haven't stopped teaching since then. So that was in 2005. I've been teaching for 20 years alongside my singing career. But I think that was also a gift because to be teaching under the auspices of a big university with the help of the other professors was really useful for me, very, very helpful, even though I don't have a teaching degree. So I did that for 2 years. Elizabeth was wonderful. I learned a lot of repertoire. I sang Ilia and Idomeneo, even though I probably should have been singing Elettra, but I was 23, so.
Right.
And then when I graduated, I somebody I went to Aspen in 2005. So this is one of the young artist programs that I did do because Elizabeth taught there. She still teaches there.
Right.
I think now
Right.
Carol Vanessa is also teaching there, and Renee Fleming goes there as well. So in Aspen, this was not the first young artist program. The first one I did was in with Cheryl Milnes in Orlando, Florida, at the Voice
Hmm.
Experience, because Maria Spacagna taught there as well, and she still teaches there actually today. So I did the Voice Experience a couple times, and then I went to Aspen. In Aspen, I met Tibby Plyler, Sylvia Plyler, who Heather. She's what everyone who makes that face when you say Tibby's name because she's so sweet. We worked together in Aspen and we had an immediate connection. She was so sweet and so wonderful. And she said to me, this Italian thing that you got going on, you should probably go study with Renata Scotto. And I said, who's that? Because,
Oh my
I
God.
was 23.
Right.
And so she's the one who sort of planted this idea in my mind. And I saw that Scotto, or she told me that Scotto had an academy at the time in White Plains at the Westchester Conservatory. She was doing her opera studio in the summers. And I think I was the last group because then she was also going back and forth to Rome at the Accademia Santa Cecilia. And so I did that as well. So when I met Renata Scotto, it's because of Maria, but it's because of the idea that Tibby gave me. So I applied to this program in Westchester Conservatory with Angela Mead, Jessica Pratt, and a bunch of other famous singers. And I thought, oh my God. And when I told Maria that I wanted to work with Renata, she said to me, oh, I know Renata, so we'll go together to your audition. And I was like, what? So I didn't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. Because then I thought I'm going to be terrified by both of you, but sure, okay, fine, come to my audition. So Renata had already held auditions, but by the time I learned about this program, like she had already chosen her group of singers. But she said, that's okay. If you know Maria, then I trust Maria. And so you can come and sing for me. And then if you get in, you get in. If you don't, you don't. So we drove from Rhode Island to New York. And when I met Scotto for the first time, I thought I was going to die because talk about fangirling. By the time I realized who she was, I did an intense amount of research and got to know her voice like in and out, all of her recordings. I bought everything, all of her butterflies, all of her everything, and studied the hell out of it before I met her because I said I'm not going to meet her without knowing who this person is. And we went to the Westchester Conservatory and I asked them to give me a room to warm up. And so they put me in a room And as I started singing, I heard a little knock on the door, and in walks Renata Scotto. And I said, "Oh, hi. I'm just warming up." I spoke to her in Italian immediately because I didn't think why speak to her in English. I'll just speak to her in her language. And she said to me, "Oh, you speak really well. I didn't know. I thought you were American." So she said, "Don't be nervous. It's just me. Maria will stay outside. You're gonna sing for me. There's a pianist in the room, but just be don't be nervous. You'll be fine." And so I said, "Okay." So I sang. I remember what I was wearing. I sang "Chi bel sogno" di Doretta from La Rondine, and I don't remember the other aria. But while I was singing, I was so nervous. I was trembling. I think my skirt was trembling. And so she came up to me while I was singing and held my hand. And she's like, "Calmati, non ti preoccupare. There's nothing to be worried about. It's just me. Look how little I am. It's fine. I'm not going to bite you." And so her comforting me was really great. And I sang and she said, "It's a wonderful voice. You speak Italian. I really want to take you into the program, but you're not a Magda. You need to learn Gilda." And I said,
Mhm.
"Gilda? What? I'm not a Gilda." She said, "Before you come to the program, go and study Gilda." And I said, "Okay, yes, ma'am."
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I
Right.
so I left this audition. I got back in the car with Maria. We drove back to Rhode Island, and I was like on, cloud nine. I thought it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I was still at USC at the time. I hadn't graduated yet. So I flew back to Los Angeles and immediately went to Alan Smith, who was the director of the collaborative arts department at the time. He's passed since then. And I said to him, "We need to learn Rigoletto." And he's like, "Okay, open the score. Let's learn Rigoletto."
Okay, great.
So I
Right.
learned Gilda immediately off the plane, like immediately. And then I went to the program and I had already learned the role. So we were working on the role. And she also gave me other things because she saw that I could learn music really quickly. So she said, "Go home and learn this one, go learn this one." And I learned with her over 3 years' time because I started in New York, but then she invited me also to come to Rome. I went back and forth from Rome to New York after I graduated USC, and I worked for 3 months in New York in order to pay for 3 months in Rome.
Right.
So I would have to live and, eat and pay my housing and have lessons for 3 months, and then I would go back.
We should just say, working a job to make enough money, whether it's to go to Rome or come to Germany and audition, is an important thing. And you save your money, and because you're going to be several months wherever it is, and you're not going to be making any money, so you
Yeah.
have to save it up. And this is a very good strategy. Okay,
hmm
go got into the, what steps you took to come to Germany.
Yeah, so okay, I'll try and go fast. So when I studied with Scotto for 3 years, and I went back and forth from New York to Rome, and I actually lived in an apartment with her secretary because her secretary knew that I wanted to live and go to Rome, and so she created this like little apartment in her house. I had my own private entry in Ossining, New York, and I lived in her basement basically. It was still, rent. I had to pay rent,
Yeah,
but it was
absolutely.
I worked at the White Plains Performing Arts Center and in the box office, and I worked at the Carrymore Festival. So I just did a bunch of stuff to pay to go to Rome every 3 months so that I could be in Rome and live and eat pizza and eat pasta and study with Scotto and live my Italian life. I actually lived with nuns when I was living in Rome because it was cheap, it was clean, but I had a curfew. So anytime we had a concert, I would have to tell the nuns ahead of time, "Tonight we have a concert and I'm going to go out with my friends after and eat a pizza. Can you give me a key?" And they said, "No, no, no, just ring the doorbell." I was like, "I don't want to ring the doorbell at 2 a.m., wake up the whole convent."
Right.
So Suor Teresa, she was very like, hard.
Yeah, yeah.
But I remember waking up all the nuns every time I had a concert. So that was interesting to live with nuns. So I did that for 3 years. And then after working with Scotto, she was very helpful. She helped me actually get an audition for the Metropolitan Opera Lindemann Young Artist Program. So I sang a private audition for James Levine because of Scotto, and Ken Noda was playing. And I don't know what happened exactly because this was the year that Juilliard and the Met like became one. So they weren't accepting any new students. But Levine was very nice to listen to me anyway because Scotto sent me. And so he didn't want to say, I think he didn't want to say no to her, but they weren't
Right,
accepting anybody new. So they didn't take me, but I
right.
knew that ahead of time, which was, of course, like, maybe I could change his mind. But so it was amazing because they gave me an audition at sea level in the Met for Levine, and then that was it. Nothing happened of that. But I think I also have been a little bit unlucky in things like that because I always fell in the cracks of things. So when Juilliard and the Met came together, I was in the cracks of that, and then they took a whole new group the next year. But that didn't happen for me. So, but Scotto said you should also audition for the Academy of Vocal Arts, and so I said, all right. So I did.
Uh-huh.
I auditioned at AVA, and Angela Mead was already there. We went to USC together, actually. That's how I know Angela Mead. We did our masters together.
Uh-huh.
And then we studied with Scotto together, and then we were at AVA together as well. So I went to AVA for a year, and they cast me in Lucia di Lammermoor, which I had already sung professionally in New Jersey with Lucina Mara's company.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, Lucina
I
Mara.
I sang Turandot with Lucina
Oh
Mara
my God,
in,
wow.
in California, right?
Wow, what a voice. And what a
Yeah, yeah.
human being also. And
Very nice.
she had this company in New Jersey and they hired me to sing Lucia di Lammermoor for $300. That was my fee.
Yeah, yeah.
Two performances. I don't
Do
remember if
you
I got paid.
do you even make like a dollar a note at that fee? I don't think with all the notes in
Exactly.
Lucia. Anyway.
I don't think so. But I had already studied the role with Scotto because when Scotto saw that I was fast, she said, "Oh, go home and study this." So I learned 10 roles with Scotto actually over my 3-year period with her. She made me learn everything: Gilda, Lucia, Amina, Puritani, all of the bel canto roles, Adina,
Mm-hmm.
everything. So then I auditioned for this Lucia di Lammermoor in Lucine's apartment, and they gave it to me in New Jersey. And then I got into AVA the following year, but I had already sung the role professionally. So I was cast with Angela Mead, which she's not a Lucia at all, but she was doing Lucia. I was doing Lucia, and then there was a third. I was the third cast because I was the new girl. But AVA is quite competitive and quite not the place for me. So I left after a year. I can talk about that at length in another interview, maybe. But to compress things, I think that's not as important as what's to come. So I left AVA after a year. I sang Lucia and I sang, they assigned me La Fiamma, but I thought it was too big for me because Alessandra
Mm-hmm.
Mark was singing things like that.
Yeah. Oh God, I sang with Alexander too. So
Yeah, and that's a big like Wagnerian voice. And so I said,
that's
this
a
is
big voice.
this is not right for me. So I asked them to put me on a different role that Anna Moffo had sung in the La Fiamma. So I sang that instead. I don't even remember what it was. I don't remember even a note of that opera because it happened, but it was so long ago. It was not, it didn't go into my brain. So I left AVA, and what happened after AVA? I decided to move to Como, Lake Como, because I
Mm-hmm.
won the competition ASLICO, the Associazione Lirica e Concertistica Italiana, which is one of the biggest competitions in Italy that Freni had won, Tebaldi had won, Scotto had won, and then I won this in 2009. I won the role of Mimi. So it wasn't a cash prize, it was a role in the theater
Yeah.
of Como. And then we
Mm-hmm.
went on tour. We toured the role in Como, Brescia, Pavia, and Cremona. And so this was my debut as Mimi. And I left AVA with the intention of staying in Italy because I said to them, I don't think I want to be here. I think I want to be in Italy. I want to have my career in Europe. So they sort of were okay with that. They let me go because I had already won this competition and I had things planned
Right.
for my future
Right.
in Italy. So it was a good exit strategy for me. So I sang my first Bohème in 2009. And of course, who comes to my premiere? My very first Mimi ever, but
Renata.
Mirella Freni.
La Freni.
So, because the tenor I was singing with was her student,
Ah,
so they told me that she was going to be there, and I said to Giovanna Lomazzi, who was the coordinator of this competition and also the intendant of the theater in Como, I said to her, if Mirella Freni comes and steps foot into this theater and you don't introduce me, I will never speak to you again. So she said, okay, don't worry. So the night of my premiere, I was in my makeup chair. I was walking from my makeup chair to my dressing room, and I see Mirella Freni in the hallway, this like vision in white, and I was like, ah, the angels sang. And I ran in the opposite direction because I was like, absolutely not. I don't want to see
right,
her.
right.
So the makeup artist was like, no, 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 go to your dressing room, go say hello to Mirella Freni. What is wrong with you? So I walked up to my dressing room and she was about to knock on the door, and I said, oh, hello. I had no words. I didn't know what to say. I was stumbling on everything. I said, it's nice to meet you. I'm the biggest fan in the entire world. You're the best singer I've ever met in my entire life. I love you so much. And I'm about to sing Mimi. And I beg you to please come and visit me after the performance because I can't form sentences right now.
Right.
And she said, yeah, of course, don't worry. I totally understand. In bocca al lupo. I'll see you at the end. And so I was like, oh my God, I just met Mirella Freni. So I got my costume on and I went out on stage. And instead of looking for the key in the first act, I was looking for where Mirella Freni was sitting. And I saw her, I caught her eye, and I said, okay, now I know where she is. I can calm down, and it was fine. So this was my debut as Bohème, Mirella Freni in the audience. So she
Mm.
came after the show. Of course, I was getting dressed, so she walked in on me naked, which was great. Good times. And she said to me after the show, this was wonderful. You're so musical. It's a beautiful voice. And she goes, but did you listen to my recordings? And I said to myself, if I say no, she's going to think I don't listen to her. And if I say yes, she's going to think I copied her. So what's the right answer here? So I said, yeah, well, yes, but I also listened to, Scotto and Tebaldi and Callas and other artists. And she said to me, I think that you have a lot of similarities, and I really appreciate what you did musically. She basically was alluding me to the fact that she thought that I copied her because we have similar sounds, and I think she
Uh-huh. Right, right.
was trying to say that she liked my sound because it was like hers, but she had a very backhanded way of complimenting me, I think. So I'm not really sure the psychology of that. But she said to me, if you ever want to come study with me, the door is always open. And I said, well, thank you very much, but I'm actually already working right now, so not sure that I have time to like stop everything and come. But if I do at any moment, yes, I will absolutely take you up on that because I would love to work with you. And that's exactly what happened. So I let my contract sort of, no, it's not what happened right away though. My contracts ended with Bohème, and then I went to do Joan Dorneman's program in Israel. I sang Magda and La Rondine. I went there 3 times actually too. I did that program 3 times. And in that program, I met Ruth Falcon. And
Uh-huh.
Ruth Falcon also really liked me and offered me a full scholarship to Manis. And so I said, I just moved to Italy. I got an apartment in Como. Like, what? So I couldn't turn down a full scholarship to Manis. So I left my apartment in Como early. Giovanna Lomazzi, who was the intendant in Como, was not happy with that decision. She thought I was making a huge mistake to go back to school. And I gave up a Rigoletto. They offered me a Rigoletto in Como. And
Mm.
I said, well, I appreciate it, but I can't. I'm American and I can't turn down a full scholarship at a conservatory in New York. I just can't. Like, I understand. And maybe that was a mistake. I don't know. But she was not happy with that decision. So I went back to New York. I was at Manus for 2 years and I loved every second of being at Manus. It was the complete opposite of ABA. Joseph Colinari was our conductor, and he's a magnificent musician. And we did Falstaff together. It was my first Falstaff. And when they gave me Alice, I thought, I'm a Nanetta. Why are you giving me Alice? But actually, it was the best decision they could have made for me because I love this role so much and it served me. And that's how I got to Germany, actually, because of Falstaff. So I sang this Falstaff in New York and I learned it really well because Colaneri is an amazing musician and he made sure that we knew everyone's parts. I know Falstaff in and out. I could sing anybody's part in Falstaff. And then after Manus, because I had promised myself that I was going to go back to Italy, I graduated, left Manus, moved to Modena and started working with Mira Lafreni for 4 years. So I worked and I studied and then I worked and then I studied. And so it was a little bit like my career was happening while I was also doing other things.
Where were you working?
I had worked already at this point. I did the Lucia in New Jersey. I sang Mimi in Italy. Um, I did Traviata somewhere. I don't remember exactly. I have my resume, of course. I can check that and the
Right. No,
years.
but I mean, in other words, you were working in various and sundry theaters and working with terrific people.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. So
you're a bit of a collector of great singers, which is certainly a good thing.
this was my mission because I said, before all of these people get too old to remember or before they go, I want all of their knowledge. I want to
Yes,
know,
exactly,
and
exactly.
so I have a bank of information in my brain and I'm actually writing a book now because I think it's time before I forget that I write everything down. So
So
I
where did who where did you so how did you get actually to Germany and what role did, as it were, did Alice play?
So I spent 4 years in Modena with Mira Lafreni. And in those 4 years, I won a lot of competitions and I did other like little jobs that I was allowed to do because I needed her permission. I wasn't allowed to do anything without her permission.
But she did. In other words, you did a lot of competitions
Yeah.
when you were studying. Okay, I
Yes,
mean,
also.
just to get a roadmap for singers these days,
Hmm.
because it's part of the business these days. Competitions. I
Yeah.
won a lot of competitions, and but it was a different thing then. But it did open doors,
Yeah.
and that's sort of the function, I think.
Definitely. And also it helped pay for things because I had to go back and forth to Italy. I had to buy scores, I had to buy dresses. And so I won a lot of competition. I didn't mention those, but I actually should have because there were lots of competitions that I was doing all along. While I was singing and studying, I was also competing. And I did, I think, over 100 of them. I won half, I would say, maybe 50. And I
Hmm.
was a finalist a lot of times. And I realized that a lot of these competitions are not always honest. And so me making it to the finals without knowing anybody was always really important to me because I said,
Yes.
I'm never going to win, but at least I'm good enough to not deny me the finals.
That's the lesson that I did learn from competitions.
Yeah.
If you don't know somebody on the jury
Hmm.
who at the best, I mean, I suppose sometimes they make you win, but mostly they will just be your defender on the jury. But if
Hmm.
you don't know anybody, you have to be undeniable, and
Yeah.
then you get to the finals, and then they do what they're going to do. But yes, you're
Yeah.
quite, and everybody should learn that, uh, because it's best to have a defender on the jury. But if you don't, you have to be undeniable, and you really have to make no mistakes, because any mistakes and they will throw you out.
Yes. And actually, this was true when I was singing, but I think nowadays what's actually happening is that because they already know who's going to win, they have to put mediocre singers in the finals to make this person look better. I think that's a different strategy now than it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Because what I'm seeing is that some singers who are winning for political reasons or for whatever reasons, they're connected to somebody in the jury, they're connected to somebody in the world who's powerful. I won't mention any names, but I know a very big competition that does this uh, on purpose. They put competition finalists in the finale who are not the best singers in the competition. The best singers in the competition are usually the ones who win the People's Choice Awards, and they're usually in the semifinals. They don't make it to the finals, actually.
Right. Although
So,
sometimes it can be useful because tell me if this is still the case. The second and third place winners or non-winners would often meet agents who would come
Yes.
and take them up. Is that
Yes.
still the case?
I think so. Yes. Yeah. And I've seen that a couple times where the second and third winners were better than the first place winner, usually, like on the whole. And those people went on to have careers because
Right.
they met their agent or they got some contract or something wonderful happened from winning second or third prize. Yeah, it's true.
Okay. So you were doing these competitions and studying with Lafreni
Mhm.
in Modena, and I studied with Paula, who taught her.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just went down there to collect a teacher, and had a few lessons with him. I mean, I can't say that I studied with him, but I
Yeah.
did work with him. But so and then what happened?
So I spent 4 years in Modena, and during the end of our relationship was very difficult, I would say, because she, without giving away too much private information, she was declining before she then died a few years later. But there was a mental decline, and in this mental decline, I watched it happen because when I first met her, her mother was still alive. Her mother died in the first year of my being there. Her mother, then her sister 2 weeks later, then her
Mm,
brother a year later. And after seeing all of these deaths, I really watched her change a lot. It was a gradual process, but she changed a lot as a human being. So the end of my relationship with Franny was not the greatest. We didn't leave on the greatest terms. I had eventually made peace with her, and then I also went to her funeral, and I was there with her family. I'm in contact with them still, and so it was okay, and I have closure. But I actually was supposed to cover Angela Mead. This was another trend. I did a lot of jobs where I covered Angela Mead. This was my thing for a long time because
okay,
I've seen
well,
a lot of,
this is important.
yeah.
People need to know that this is also a route, and but that it also has a downside. So tell us about that.
Yes. Well, so I've actually never talked about this story publicly, but I think it's time now because it's been long enough. But I was hired to sing the cover of I Lombardi alla prima crociata at Carnegie Hall with the Opera Orchestra of New York. So I was covering Angela Mead, and I knew for a fact that Angela doesn't get sick. There's no need to cover her at all because she doesn't get
Right.
sick. She's like a power horse. She goes on. And so I thought I'll never go on stage, but this is a great opportunity for me to work with Eve Queller, to learn this role. And it's Carnegie Hall, so I need to be really super prepared. So I was in Russia with Freni. We went to the Galina Vishnevskaya Opera Center to she gave a masterclass that is on YouTube, and it's very intense. You should watch it. I was there in the room. It's crazy intense because she was not very nice to those singers. And this is what I dealt with. So in the masterclass that you can see on YouTube today is my daily life for
Yeah,
4 years.
I've seen that. I've seen that master class. It's
It's
yeah,
intense. Yeah,
yeah.
it's intense. So that's what I went through for 4 years. The good thing about it was I had eight voice lessons a week with Mirella Freni because we worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, twice a day.
That's
So
great.
yeah, it was
That's
incredible. It
that's
was
I find personally that that kind of work is really important. It really helps. It's much better than once a week.
absolutely, yeah,
And
it
how
was.
is the Falstaff connection into Germany? Is this related with Franny? Because I do
Uh,
have to go at 3:30. So
Okay, okay.
yeah.
No, it's not, but I'll get there.
Okay.
So the funny thing, what happened with the Lombardi was we were in Russia. I asked her permission, can I do this Lombardi? And she said yes. And she said, oh, but if it doesn't go well, you can always cancel. And I thought, I'm never gonna cancel, but okay, I'm not you, but whatever. So I worked on this Lombardi with her every day, 4 times a week, 8 lessons a week for 4 months. And she finally, at the end, was like, I don't think you're ready. You can't go to Carnegie Hall. This is not at the standard that I want it to be. You need to cancel. And I was like, I cannot cancel. This is not something that I can do. I know that you're Mirella Freni, but Eve Queller won't ever speak to me again. I will put her in a really bad situation because it was 3 weeks before the rehearsal period was supposed to start. And Freni just backed me into a corner and she said, if you do this, don't come back. If you do this, I won't speak to you anymore. And I thought, oh my God. So who do I aggravate, Freni or Eve Queller? Like, what do I do in this situation? So I called Joan Dorneman and I said to her, what do you think I should do? Do you think I should? I told her the situation I'm in. And she said, I think you can do it. But if you're not in the right mental state to do it because you're afraid, you shouldn't do it. Because if Angela gets sick, you have to go on stage. No, it wasn't even Carnegie Hall. It was Avery Fisher Hall, I think. It was a
Hmm.
big deal. And so Joan said, if you don't feel 110% mentally ready to go on stage at Avery Fisher Hall, don't do it. And with those words, I said, okay, I guess I can't do it. So I canceled, which I think was a really big mistake, actually. But I wanted to respect the wishes of my teacher, so I did. I went back to Freni and I told her that I canceled it. She didn't believe me because I had a trip booked to New York and I was supposed to do other things like the Gerda Listner Foundation, and I was supposed to do the Richard Tucker auditions, and I had a whole bunch of stuff lined up. So I said I canceled the Lombardi, but I'm going to New York anyway because my family is there and I have competitions. She didn't believe me. She thought I didn't cancel. So she decided to stop talking to me and she told me not to come back to Modena. And I said, okay, that's how our relationship ended. And Eve Queller also stopped talking to me because I actually
Yes.
did cancel, and I left
Right.
her
Right.
I left her in a really bad situation because Eve said to me I needed to hire three different sopranos to cover the role because in 3 weeks nobody could learn Lombardi. And you put me in a really bad position. But I didn't tell Eve that it was Franey in the beginning. I canceled the contract because I told her I don't feel that I can sing this. I don't think it's right for me. I've been singing it for 4 months, 5 months. I took the responsibility because I'm an artist and it's me. In the end, it's not my mommy or my teacher told me I can't do it. So I didn't tell her the truth. She was very angry with me. And then about 2 or 3 years later, I said, Eve, we need to have coffee. And so I can tell you exactly what happened. So I told her, actually, Freni was the one who made me cancel this contract. And she said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I stopped talking to you. I was so mad at you because you led me to believe that it was your decision. I said, yeah, because I thought that it was my responsibility to do that. But I want to tell you the truth. And the truth is that I wasn't allowed to do it. So here we are. So Eve forgave me. I didn't do Lombardi. I feel that that was a mistake, but I think that this is an important story to tell, to talk about, because sometimes we also make bad decisions based on information given by people who we admire, who we look up to. And I did exactly that. In my eyes, I did everything right because I was respectful to my teacher. And had I known she was going to be angry with me anyway, I would have just done the Lombardi because I could have done it. There was no vocally, physically, there was nothing stopping me. I knew the role in and out, and I should have done it. I think that was a mistake, but I think that there's a lesson in that. So for a long time, suffered from this, actually. This was a really big, devastating moment for me that she decided to end things like this. But it gave me the inspiration. Yeah, sorry.
What would you say to a young singer was the actual lesson that you learned?
Well, I think that you have to listen to your gut. My intuition was telling me that I could have done it and that I really wanted to do it and that I shouldn't have exited a contract because that's unprofessional. If you actually do feel like you can't do something, then you should not do it. I think if you feel vocally that it's something is too much for you, it's not right for you, you're going to make, crash and burn, then you should definitely not do something, even if that means risking people being angry with you and potential lawsuits, actually. There are lots of getting out of contracts that singers legally get tied in knots. And that's another, you have to sort of weigh those decisions as they come. The biggest lesson for me, though, was to grow up, put on my big girl pants, and make my own decision, regardless of what my teacher told me. And so that was a mistake, in my opinion, but it
There you
happened.
go. That's. I do think as a former professional too, that's really what young singers have to learn to do,
Hmm.
and put on your big girl pants and
Yeah.
go out there, because in the end you are on the stage by yourself, and your
Yeah.
teacher isn't there with you, and
Yep.
nobody else is there with you.
Exactly.
Um,
And I use this in
and
my teaching as well because I tell my students, I'm not there with you on stage. You need to know if this is right for you, in and out, upside down. You need to be able to roll out of bed and sing it. And if you can't, don't do it. But if you
okay,
can, and I tell you not to, I probably wouldn't tell them not to. That's the difference, you know?
right. I mean, you're not, Mirera Flaney, for the good and the bad, So, what happened after that?
So after that, I moved to Milan for a year. I hated it. I moved back to New York because I had opportunities there. I did Nedda with New York City Opera. I sang with Tulsa Opera. I did Liu. I was doing Bohème. I had a little bit of an American career for a minute there. With New Orleans Opera, I did also Pagliacci. I sang a couple of bohèmes. And so, but I didn't, I always knew that I never wanted to make a career in America. So I was in the end of my second master's degree. I went back to school. It's a whole thing. We don't have time now to talk about it, but I got in a car accident and I had to take time off of singing. And in that time off, I decided to go back to school and get my master's in Italian literature. So I was at Hunter College while I was also doing a German tour. So I came to Germany to do an audition tour while I was like still in school. And my professors gave me 22 days off and they said no more than that. You have to go in these 22 days because they also let me fulfill contracts. I was singing something in Sweden and going to classes at night at 2 o'clock in the morning in my pajamas after rehearsals all day and performances all day. I would still have classes in New York that I had to attend. So they let me go. I did this audition tour. In 22 days, I went to 16 cities. I sang 9 auditions and I came home with 4 contracts in
How did
that.
you how no how did you set the auditions up?
I was very me and entrepreneurial and scrappy and just wrote directly to the theaters. There were a couple of there were a couple of agents that I wrote to and I said, "I'm coming to Germany. I'm going to be here at this time. Can I sing for you?" And most people didn't answer me, but the ones who did, Oper Frankfurt answered me. And I got the audition set up by myself. I went there, I sang for Bernd, the intendant, and he offered me Manon Lescaut from the stage. And I was like, before he even said that, he asked me, "Do you think you'll be able to sing Manon Lescaut in 2 years' time?" And before he finished his sentence, I was like, yes, because I learned from this Franny thing. Now I'm not going to say no to anything, you know?
No, well, singers don't. Uh,
Exactly. Well, now they don't. Yeah. I mean, I was a little bit too cautious throughout my career. There is something to be said for saying no to things. I think that's also important. I said no to a lot of stuff when I thought it was not right for me. But then when I thought I can do it, I said yes immediately. So I went back home, finished my studies, and while I was at home, I had sung for Walter Wlodarski, who was one of the agents in Austria. He's been around for a long time. He heard me while I was doing my Vienna audition because I wrote also to Dominic Meyer and I asked him at the time he was the intendant in Vienna at the Staatsoper. I asked him if I could come and do an audition because he knew me from the Asligo competition. He was the judge who
okay,
gave me
so
this.
in a certain sense, this is important.
Yeah.
First of all, you had credentials. You,
Yes.
you had done certain things. You could say, "I've done these things," and they also probably, have friends that they can ask.
Yeah.
Um, and so you use those, and you used also personal connections
Hmm.
to. I mean, some of these theaters you wrote just cold, I
Just
assume.
cold. Yeah. And I said,
Um,
"Here's my resume. Here's what I sing. I'm in town during this time. Can you hear me?" And they said yes.
right, but you had just so that everybody knows, you also had credentials that they could either check or at least believe in.
Yes.
And that's important to know for young singers. If you've been working around and you want to go to Germany, you might try that. If you're just writing a theater cold and you have nothing, to offer,
Hmm.
you might. I mean, I'm interested in your opinion on this. You might think twice about that.
Yes,
Uh,
I agree. Yeah, because there's a lot of things that even with the credentials that I had, a lot of people said you haven't done anything yet. Because in their eyes, if you haven't sung at La Scala, if you haven't sung at the Met, and if you haven't sung at places like Wiener Staatsoper, you haven't had a career, which I think is ridiculous, honestly, because there's a whole middle class singer group generation who are working really hard. And they're not singing at the Met and they're not singing at La Scala because they're not famous, but that doesn't mean that they're any less and they're not valid singers. And so the whole system right now is a mess. I think, honestly, it's a disaster because only famous people are being hired in certain places because they have powerful agency. They're already established as the 1% singer, and they're the ones who are doing everything. And I think it's unfair
well,
that,
now you did everything from Rosalinda to Traviata, which you sang a lot of times, and Electra at Erfurt.
mhm,
And I wanted to ask you about your experience there. Just give a quick rundown how you found that theater, and
yes.
we'll end with that.
Okay. So the agent audition that I did for Vladarsky was helpful because when I went back to New York to finish my degree, he called me to jump in for Alice in Falstaff in Osnabrück.
Ah.
So that's where I started the German thing. So
So you
I
jumped in. It started with a jump in.
a jump in, yeah. And it was a jump in of a role that I had already sung and I knew ahead of time. But there was a Chinese soprano who had to go back to China because I think her grandmother was sick or something. So I took her, she was Fest. I didn't take her Fest position, but I took over her role.
In
And
that
it was
production.
a Wiederaufnahme, so I was there for several months. So I actually finished my degree while I was in Osnabrück. I didn't walk on stage to receive my degree because I was in Osnabrück. So from there, though, because I had Osnabrück on my resume, I went back to New York to, move out of my apartment. I did a couple of auditions. I was back and forth a lot. And I did the NIOP auditions in New York. I've done them several times. I've done them about 5 times. They're very expensive and they're very high pressure. But for me, they worked really well because I got a lot of stuff from NIOP auditions. And I'm a big advocate of this, even though I know there are a lot of singers who don't like it. I sang, my last NIOP was in New York and Guy Montavon was in the jury. And from the stage, again, it was like another unicorn audition. From the stage, he said to me, "What are you doing in New York? Why are you here? You're Italian. You have all these credentials. You've worked in Europe. Why are you here?" And I said, "Well, I have things that kept me here, which was finishing school. And but my intention is to go to Germany next year, or maybe Vienna, or I don't know, Munich. I'm not sure yet, but I need to learn the language." And so he said, "Well, what about Erfurt?" And I said, "Sure. What about Erfurt? Why not?" And I thought
And
he
you
was
said, "Where's that?" Right.
exactly, I thought he was kidding. And so I left the audition and I was like, well, okay, fine. I sang a good audition. I sang Il Corsaro, the aria from Il Corsaro, and Senza Mamma. I felt really good about it. I had lost a bunch of weight because when Mirelda's relationship and my relationship ended, she gave me the impetus to actually lose 25 kilos because I was so
Mm,
pissed that I said, I don't need you to have a career. I need to just lose weight and look hot.
right. Right.
So I lost a lot of weight, and I think that helped also. Um, and I left the audition, and I got a text message from Diana Soviero, who at the time was my teacher, and she said, "Did you sing today in the NIOPS?" And I said, "Yeah, how did you know that?" And she goes, "Because Guy Montavon is staying in my house, and he wants to offer you something."
Okay.
And I
So
said,
you're an IOPS success story.
yes, yes,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
They actually do. I mean, I have looked at their jury, as it were, and they do have some people, who are from theaters. And
yeah.
I couldn't tell if they were just, the secretary or the second KBB person, but obviously they also have intendants there.
Yes, yes, sometimes, not always, but sometimes. So this for me was like a fluke. I think it was a unicorn audition, but I already had Oper Frankfurt on my resume. I already had Osnabrück on my resume, and I think that also helped because,
Yes.
you know, And I didn't want a fest, honestly. I thought about maybe that would be a good idea to do a fest because then I can have a family, I can have a baby, I can be stable, I can make income. But I didn't really want to do a fest. I wanted to stay as a guest singer. And
Hmm.
the fest story is another whole conversation that we need to have another day. But I was there for 2.5 seasons and I filled the holes of a lot of what the theater needed, and it wasn't necessarily what I needed. So I sang a lot of repertoire that I don't feel was right for me. With the idea, because when he offered me my contract, the offer was for Traviata, Pagliacci, Manon Lescaut, and Louisa Miller, which for me was like perfect. I said, this is my repertoire. I'm a leading lady. It's only 4 productions. I'm, yes, 100% yes. So I signed the contract thinking that that was going to happen. And then COVID happened. And COVID changed absolutely everything. It changed the
Yeah.
season, it changed everything. So then I ended up scrambling and filling the holes of two mezzos who got pregnant, who were on maternity leave. There was a coloratura who was on maternity leave. I had to fill her gaps. Then I replaced a dramatic soprano, even though I'm not a dramatic soprano, I'm a lyric soprano. All of my rep they gave to the other in-house singer, and I was like not happy with that because I should have been singing Antonia and Countess and all the things that she was singing, but I was singing Giulietta in Hoffmann and like random stuff that was not totally for me. I was also jumping in a lot. That was the thing that really was great because I learned so much repertoire and I have so much repertoire on my resume. They called me to jump in Meiningen. I sang Bohème. Rostock, I sang Bohème. I jumped in for Falstaff in Kiel. I've been doing a lot of jump-ins. I did a Russian
Right.
opera in Erfurt that I also jumped in Saarbrücken. So that to me has really gotten me around Germany a lot because I have a lot of repertoire prepared already. I think that's
Right.
also a big thing.
What have you done? I mean, so you did a lot of jump-ins,
Yeah.
and um, how has that affected you, and what are you doing now?
So after this Osnabrück, I moved to Berlin the first time. I was living with Barbara Fritoli actually at the time because we were teaching together in a program. We became really good friends, and she was singing Falstaff. Falstaff is a theme of my life. She was singing
Hmm.
Falstaff in Berlin, and so we took an apartment together and we stayed in Berlin. And then COVID happened. This was in January 2020. Then COVID hit. She went back to Italy and I got stuck in Berlin because I said, if I go back to the US, I have no health care. I have no work lined up. All my work is lined up in Germany. I have an Italian
Right.
passport. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying
Right.
right here.
You're
And
an
that's
EU
when
citizen, right?
that's when I fell in love with Berlin because it was a beautiful empty city and it was all mine. And I
Right.
thought, this is so great. I love Germany. I love Berlin. And I actually decided in that time that I wanted to buy something here, which later I did. But I got stuck basically in Berlin during COVID. And so the only thing I could do, because most of my contracts were canceled, not everything, but most of my stuff was canceled.
It was a terrible, terrible time for
It was
singers.
awful, yeah. So I did my premiere of the Manon Lescaut in Frankfurt with Martin Müller, actually, and we had to restage the entire thing with COVID protocols. It was a
Interesting.
Wiederaufnahme, but we had to keep 20 meters distance the entire show. How do you
Yeah.
do Manon Lescaut with 20 meters distance between the soprano and the tenor? I mean, it was crazy. And they had a scene where I actually took pole dancing lessons because I was in a club. I filled in for Asmik Grigorian. I don't know if you saw this production, but it was very risque. And they actually invited me to come and watch it. And while I was sitting there watching this Asmik Grigorian do pole dancing on stage, I thought, I'm gonna die. I'm dying right now here in this seat because I thought, how am I ever gonna be able to do that? So in the intermission, Bernd said to me, "So what do you think of the production?" And I said, "I think I need to start eating a lot of salad." Is my answer to that question. So I was on a very strict diet when I saw this production, and I had time to lose a little bit of weight, but then COVID happened, and so I wasn't sure if I was going to actually do any of the shows. We sang the premiere between the first and the second lockdown. So I sang one show, and then the other five, I think six, got canceled. And they had asked me to do 11 actually because they wanted to extend the run. So
Now,
I
this
ended
was
up
where?
Frankfurt.
In Frankfurt. Okay.
Yeah. So I ended up losing like 10 performances of Manon Lescaut, which, you know,
That's a
And I was
lot of
supposed
money.
to do Stifelio in St. Gallen, and that got canceled completely. About a week before we were supposed to start rehearsing, they canceled everything, and so that was a nightmare.
Did
Um,
they pay you off a little bit, or are you still fighting with them?
so St. Gallen paid us 80%, which I thought was amazing
That's
because
amazing.
that was
Yeah.
really I got really lucky there. Frankfurt, I actually think again I made another mistake there because they paid me obviously for the premiere because I sang the premiere, and they gave us 33%, so a third of our fee for the performances that were canceled. Not all 11 because I didn't have a contract for all 11. I only had a contract for
Right.
5 or 6. And they sent me a contract that I had to sign saying that I was undoing the contract, which I think was a very big mistake because I found out from other colleagues later that they never signed this paper and they sued Frankfurt and got all of their money back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I didn't know that that was a thing because in
Well,
Germany, also, if you don't speak the language, things like that are very terrifying because you think like,
yes.
I don't want to go to court and fight for myself in German, it's
Well,
just
and
easy.
a lawyer costs money,
Yeah, also.
although I would say educate yourself as you can on the internet, and then especially with Google Translate and things like
Mhm.
that, and then go to a lawyer and
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah. Yeah, but you need to know the language. So actually
Yep.
during COVID, that's what I did. I studied German for the entire time I was in COVID. I was going to German classes online.
So
So
how did you get past the COVID lockdowns when things straightened out, or are you now teaching mostly? What
I
do you do?
am after COVID happened was when I started my fest actually. So I was in Erfurt after that. I had already had that lined up, thankfully. So I
Uh-huh.
started my fest at the end of COVID in 2021.
Hmm.
But I did also get like Corona Hilfe and all those things for singers because I lost all of my contracts. So I had to prove that I lost all of that money, and they were very, very helpful with artists, which is another reason why I stayed in Germany because I said if I go home, I'm not going to get any help from the U.S. government whatsoever.
Right.
So I sort of got lucky in the way that I had contracts in Germany that got canceled or in
Now, who
German
did you
speaking
who did
countries.
you uh, who did you go to? Who helped you?
The German government. They gave like
Okay.
Corona Hilfe and things like that for yeah, so I think the biggest thing that I have done all throughout my career as a singer is also have something else to help me maintain in those peaks and valleys because the singing career sometimes was great and winning competitions was sometimes great, but it was never stable. And the thing that has kept me stable throughout is teaching Italian, teaching voice lessons, and then of course like being scrappy in my way and figuring out like I created a podcast. I don't get any money from that, but I do a lot of other things like side projects. And I think nowadays it's getting more acceptable, and this taboo of you only doing opera and living and breathing and eating and dying only opera is finally becoming undone a little bit in the sense that people are now having to do other things. They have to have other careers. A lot of singers have side hustles. There's one singer I went to school with who stopped singing and has a fashion line of clothing that she designs. Other people choose to teach. There are other people who are doing content creation on social media, which I know nothing about and I don't want to get involved in. But there are people who are making money from TikTok and doing makeup tutorials, makeup artists, language teachers, babysitting, au pair, like anything that you're good at. There are people who do sales commissions, other people who drive, Uber or like whatever, any of those things. There is no more, at least for my generation and younger, there is no more stigma attached to doing other things if you can't make an operatic career 100% of your income because I think it's not feasible anymore, especially after COVID. Because, like I said before, there's this 1% of singers who are taking all of the jobs. A massive amount of middle class singers, is what I wanted to say, who are wonderful, talented, but have to do something else. They just have to. It's just not feasible to live your life. And if you want to have a family also, that's why a lot of people choose the fest route. And a lot of people also choose the chorus route in Germany. I have a lot of students now who want to get chorus jobs because they are protected by a union. They have a monthly income. It's a stable life. It's a stable job. You're in one town. You're making music all the time because you're in every production. You can have a family. You can have a dog. And it's a nice life for them. And so there's nothing wrong with that. I think 25 years ago, that was considered like taboo. You know, if you want to be in the chorus, there's something wrong with you. If you want to do something else, there's something wrong with you. Also, if you go through menopause, there's something wrong with you. If you take hormone therapy, that's taboo. It's so ridiculous, this whole like elitist thing that is opera. And so I think my generation is tired of it. And we're, Martha Easton, I think you guys did an interview with her. She's making huge waves on social media, breaking all of these stigmas too, because there's just so many of us who are tired of this. You can't do that because you're an opera singer. It's taboo. I literally had a voice teacher tell me once, because I fell off my bike in my very first production in Erfurt. I fell off my bike and I tore all the ligaments in my knee and I couldn't walk for 3 months. It was actually kind of a disaster. But my voice teacher said to me, "What are you doing riding a bike? You're an opera singer." And I was like, "I can't ride a bike? What?" I'm a human being who needs to get places. And like, what? I'm an opera singer, so I should think twice about riding a bicycle? I just, that's the,
Right.
taboo of things that we're not allowed to do. Yeah, I
Absolutely.
think it's really hard, especially for women and especially for sopranos, because it's just over saturated. The market is totally oversaturated with singers, especially American singers who are coming to Germany because there's no work in America for them. So the idea and the advice that people are giving is to come to Germany because it's going to be easy to get a fast contract, and that is absolutely not true. It's not easy at all. And when you do, if you are lucky enough to get a fast contract, which is already difficult, then you are working like a dog for the theater and not for you and not for yourself and not for your art. So you have to also know if that's what you really want in your life, first of all, because you're not serving you and your art, you're serving the theater's needs as a business. So that's important to know. The chorus, I think, suffers that less because again, they get to be in every show. They have a ton of music they have to learn. They're on stage all the time, but they have protection, like the orchestra has protection. Soloists do not. So we have the Personalrat in Germany, which is like the quote unquote union that helps the singers, but it's very also taboo to complain about things to them because if the intendant or if somebody who you have a problem with hears about what you have to say, like an actual incident that maybe happened, then you put yourself at risk of having things taken from you, of maybe not having a career because of all the noise and the rumors and things like that. If you are a difficult, quote unquote, difficult singer, like I'm considered to be difficult because I'm open and honest and I tell the truth, I think that that is also a problem within the system. But I think that jumping in is a really good strategy if you have a lot of music to learn, that you've already performed a lot. I think the hardest thing is to just be on their radar because there's just so many of us. And I think once you jump in, you're already on their radar because they kind of know that you jumped in and they know that you sing this repertoire. So then they think of you again. Or I think it's a lot about building networking, relationships, being, nice to your colleagues, being a good worker, being professional, not really complaining too much unless it's like something really that you should be complaining about. I think you should make noise when it's, like a Me Too situation is something you should make noise about. But the system right now is a little bit broken, and I think my generation is really trying to work on fixing it, but it's going to take a lot of time because a lot of these antiquated ideas are in power. Those are the people who have the power, and you sort of have to play the game their way right now. Once people my age start taking those positions, I think the game is going to change. So right now it's a transition period of people waiting for people to sort of retire or move on or like go to another place. And then maybe those positions will be filled by younger people who have a different idea of how the business works. And especially women. I think women have a different idea of how the business works because we've had to deal with a lot of other things under the radar that men just frankly don't have to deal with, or at least straight men. So there's a lot of like sensitive things that also that are in coming into play, political stuff that's coming into play. But I think as an artist, you need to be honest, first of all, with yourself and with your people around you. And I think making a team is super important. So you need to have a teacher that you trust. You need to have a coach that you trust. You need to have a manager that you trust. And just sort of going, being prepared, doing your job, and then sort of going home and not really making it too much of an emotional thing. It's a very like intellectual thing. That's hard though, because what we do is very emotional. So it's easy to blur the lines a little bit. But 10 years of therapy has taught me what boundaries are. So I think that's important too. Therapy, I think therapy is important for singers because this is a really, really, really challenging field. And if you have a good voice teacher, a good coach, a good agent, and a good therapist, then that's a really good recipe for hopefully making a good career, I
Right.
guess.
Lots of trust.
Yeah.
Lots of trust is involved in musically, emotionally, and career wise,
Hmm.
business.
Yes.
Trust has always been an important thing.
Yeah. But I love what I really love the most, and the reason why I moved here and the reason why I bought an apartment in Berlin is because I am a foreigner in America and I am a foreigner in Italy. And those are my two home countries. But no matter what, when I'm in America, I'm Italian, and when I'm in Italy, I'm American. And it's infuriating. I'm going to write a book about that too. But in Germany, it doesn't really matter because I'm just an immigrant. I'm just a foreigner, and nobody cares which kind. They've accepted me. But the thing I really love about it the most is the fact that because there are so many rules and the bureaucracy is such covered in red tape, it's really difficult to navigate, but you have a safety net because, for example, the help that they gave the singers during COVID was astronomical for me. I mean, it was life altering for me. The fact that if I know that I'm in the right and I have an argument with a boss or if a company who doesn't pay me or whatever, and I know that I'm in the right, I know with certainty that I will get the money, that I will be covered, that I will have that safety net, that I, even if I have to go to court or whatever, because the laws in Germany are so clear, it really makes me feel very secure here. In America, I did not feel that ever. And also in Italy, I felt like, very unsettled and very uncertain about a lot of things. And the biggest thing for me to live in Germany was that, it was just the fact that I know that if something's going to go wrong, I have protection. Because even if my bank accidentally takes 45 cents too much from my account, I know they'll give it back. I just know that. And that's really something that has helped me breathe more easily when I don't have to worry about things like that. Because my career and my singing and my dog and my life and like my home and things like that is already taking so much of my energy. I don't want to have to waste energy on chasing people down for money that they owe me or like suing companies in Italy because they don't pay me for 3 years. And, I have a lot of colleagues who have dealt with that. And I just came to Germany to avoid
Italy,
all of it, honestly.
Italy is a casino.
A little bit. As much
Bello,
as
ma.
the food is amazing and
Yes. Jessica, I just wanted to ask you, do you go by Jessica, Jessica Rose, or Rose Cambio, or what name
it
do you actually use?
sort of depends on the day. No, I'm usually Jessica. As a professional name, I use Jessica Rose Cambio, but that's only, that's actually a really funny thing. We can end this way. So Scotto, my legal last name is Owen. So on my legal documents, it's Owen. But I don't have a relationship with my father's family, and I'm not Welsh looking. So I decided to take Cambio, which is my grandmother's name, to honor her because she was
Uh-huh.
the biggest benefactor of my life. So I wanted to honor her. In 2005, I chose to use her name professionally. But I had the conversation with Scotto about what name should I use because we have a lot of Italian names in my family. So I went through the list and she said, Ricci, no, because you have curly hair. Ricci means curly. Palumbo, we have in our family. She said, no, 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 c'è il maestro. It's already maestro. Di
Allora.
Stefano, we have in our family. She said, no, 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 there's a singer named Di Stefano. So then I said, Cambio. And she goes, what about something else? And so I said, Vendetuoli is my mother's name. She goes, no, 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 it's too long. Vendetuoli. Cambio, però, Jessica Cambio, Jessica Cambio. She goes, ah, no. And I said, why? She said, c'è cacca in mezzo. Jessica Cambio. And she's like, no, 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 you can't have a career with caca in the middle of your name. So I said, well, what if I use, what if I use my middle name? Jessica Rose Cambio. So she was like, Jessica Rosa Cambio, Jessica Rosa Cambio. Ah, così va bene. Così sì. So she
Oh,
said, never take away the rose. You leave the rose.
okay.